Governor Josh Green, and we haven't had an opportunity to have you in for a while. A lot's been happening, from the shutdown to tariffs and so forth, and you had to jump into action to help Hawaii families.
Yeah, it was very tough. We are seeing, a recessionary effect from federal cuts, and that means lower grants, fewer dollars coming into the states in general, the tariff effect, a little bit of downward pressure on tourism. So when they finally ultimately cut the SNAP benefits during the shutdown, we had to do something. So I authorized $42 million. 60% of that came from temporary assistance for needy families, TANF dollars. So we're totally fine, but we had to make sure people could eat. So there's a lot to do. We're going to get through the whole kind of turbulence from the federal government okay, because we've been prudent with our dollars for the last 3 years, but I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. Our budget will be a little bit flat.
And we did see that as well, the airlift, them deciding to cut some of the travel to airports, including Honolulu. Of course, we're also seeing a slump with tourism.
Yes, that was pretty punitive, actually. So when the shutdown continued to go on, that probably is what incented the senators and representatives across the aisle to finally do something, because as you started seeing more difficulty traveling, as we're headed towards Thanksgiving, everyone gets up in arms. It would have devastated us. I mean, that would have been a complete destructive event. So I'm very glad that the shutdown ended, glad that people are getting their food benefits again, but that would have been too much to bear. So I can kind of patch us through a lot of these challenges, but if they absolutely turn off tourism, we'd be in trouble.
I want to ask you about a new legislative session is coming. Of course, we see the pressure on families here to put food on the table, to afford insurance. What are some priorities that you'd like to see on the table?
It's almost all about affordability and housing, as it has been, with obviously a pretty hefty dose of dealing with homelessness. So we are continuing our tax breaks for working families, for the Alice families. That's the central part of our tax package, which is probably the better part of $4 billion of cuts. We have to keep doing that because people are right on the edge. We have to build more housing, so we're still under emergency housing rules to get all those housing starts in place. We've started 14,000 housing units. We're going to move to 60,000 over the course of a decade. That's hugely valuable because there'll be more kind of available inventory. And then finally, we did do $2 million for the food bank. Initially, another $5.5 million came through the grants and aid that the legislature has been taking the lead on. That was fantastic. But we're going to have to keep working through this next year to make sure the safety net services are in place. I'm very worried about what will happen to the Affordable Care Act and the people that are on the exchange. We're contemplating support there also with the extended tax breaks. It's not good that they're pretty much penalizing people who use the Affordable Care Act over the years. We're going to keep our Medicaid program intact. There's just a lot of work to do in Hawaii because affordability is always an issue. But I'll keep taxes as low as I can on working families. And then, like I said, we're going to be prudent about how we spend money. So we won't be doing new programs. We'll be delivering on what we've already put into place.
I want to ask you about the military and the leases. This has been an ongoing issue. What's the latest developments there?
So it looks like we pushed back some, and the military recognized that going too fast would cause a lot of turmoil here. So it looks like we will have at least a year of grace period to get input from people. I put together an advisory council, mostly of Hawaiian leaders, because there's a large sentiment that the land is most sacred, which I share also. So this next year we'll be getting input. We're in constant communication with the Secretary of the Army and other military leaders. They did not get what's called the National Defense Authorization Act language passed that would have allowed them to quickly take the land. And frankly, that's a good thing. I think it's better to pause, to get input, to make sure that I can fight for, over time, things like the return of Makua Valley, 12,000 acres of land actually returned to us, multiple billions of dollars of benefits like housing, energy support, all these things that you mentioned up front that we need for our people. If the military is going to continue to have a presence here, we think it should be a robust partnership, really in Ohana. So this year we'll get the input. I don't anticipate at this point now, based on everything I've heard and I've talked to these guys about, that they will accelerate their plans. We want the lands to be used, but used appropriately, and we have to have our values honored.
Governor Green, we thank you as always for coming in and updating us on a full plate of everything happening.
You bet. Thank you.